opening keynote is by Dr. Ganesh Natarajan, Chairman, 5F World Lighthouse Communities Foundation and Honeywell Automation India Limited. Can we have a huge round of applause for our keynote speaker, first keynote speaker, Dr. Ganesh Natarajan. Taaliyan bajti rehni chahiye. Come on, everybody.
Go a little further, you're almost there. No, the biggest worry, obviously, for anybody running a company is growth. Because even if you look at what Reserve Bank of India has come up with yesterday, they're saying, in fact, I think it's today, they're saying that, look, it'll take till 2034, which is almost like next 14 years, to recover some of the lost ground because of COVID. Naturally, because many sectors got badly affected. So every CEO, right from my friend Sanjeev Mehta of Hindustan Lever or Unilever, is worried about how can we revive those big growth numbers. Fortunately, I come from an industry, which is the technology industry, where people are not worried about growth. They're worried about, I think, what somebody just said, which is attrition. Okay, and that's something we'll discuss. Because today, the growth is extraordinary. I mean, you look at my friend Anand Deshpande, who will speak at the end of the session, and Anand announced his results yesterday. In 1 year, they've grown 35% in revenues and 50% in profits. This is kind of almost unheard of for the last 4 years in the tech sector. And you take any of the companies, take TCS, Infosys, etc., barring maybe a blip here or there, growth is happening. What's the second thing that CEOs are worried about today, especially in technology? Attrition. I mean, it's, of course, in America, they call it the great resignation. And I'm going to ask you questions on why you people in HR think that attrition is jumping like 50% in certain sectors. So please think of the answer to that one. What's the third thing they are worried about or should be worried about? I'm giving you a hint by asking you are and should be. Okay, you're worried about growth, you're worried about P&L, you're worried about your revenues and profits, you're worried about, oh my God, where are all these people going? What next? What else would you worry about? Culture, okay. Talk a little more. Have any of you heard the terminology called ESG? What is it? Environment? You're forgetting the S, Mahesh. Social. Environment, social, governance. It's a really big deal thing now because people are saying, okay, fine. And again, COVID has taught us that ultimately societies, countries, companies have to worry about a terminology called sustainability. And sustainability is all about how do we protect the planet? How do we look at climate change? How do we make sure that people are treated as people and not like some factory workers who come and go? And I think that is one big deal thing that's happening. If you look at the tech industry, I mean, there was a time when we used to add about 1 lakh people every year to the tech force. Last year, just 3 companies, and I think it was TCS, Infosys, and HCL, added 1,97,000 just between the 3 of them, net. Which means assuming that they had an attrition of 20%, maybe 15%, you recruited almost 250,000 people during 1 year. And that's just 3 companies. So assuming that they represent a large size of the company, you're talking about close to 4.5 to 5 lakh net additions to the workforce. So what is the reason for the great resignation? Anybody? Why are people like leaving at the drop of a hat nowadays? More opportunities where? I mean, I'm working for TCS. My zindagi ka maqsad was always to work for TCS. Why do I leave? Okay, salary is one. So let's park that. Clearly, when a startup is funded suddenly $15 million by somebody, they say, my paisa to will go on for the rest of the world. So they'll just say, give him 3 times and hire him from Infosys. So that's one. Any other reasons? It may be easier if you put up your hands so that I can point you. Otherwise, we'll be chaos. Go ahead. What is stagnation during COVID? Oh, so they were so desperate to quit, but now they got a chance. Which company are you in? Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Little louder. Sorry, I can't hear. Talk a little more. No, talk a little more. What do you mean by that? No, एक minute. Let her finish. Yeah. What's the priority?
So, in the past, during the pandemic, a lot of people were working from home. The comfort level was so much that they didn't want to come for 9-hour shift.
Okay, so that's the shifting priority part.
Yeah, and wage stagnation. Wage stagnation is one part of it. which says that a lot of companies during COVID pandemic 2021, a lot of companies did not give a raise or maybe meager raise. And due to that, people started looking outside and there were a lot of pent-up demand in the market. So possibly people started looking out for more opportunity, work-life balance, and of course, salary.
So can we blame 2 years of work from home for the current attrition? All of you will agree? Surely, come on, it's a very easy audience. Huh. 1 second, let him finish. Huh? Yeah, go ahead. Huh. Plus you can do 3 jobs at the same time. Moonlighting, exactly. I have at least one nephew of mine, I'm ashamed to say so, who's working for 3 large companies in Bangalore at the same time. Where is the level of integrity today? No, I'm asking you, I'm not. Okay. I'll tell you a story. I was in Ladakh in November for a holiday. Okay, and we were in this monastery called the Lamayuru Monastery, which is the tallest monastery in Ladakh. So my wife and I climbed up to that monastery, and then we met this young woman, and she was just asking us, if you're going back to Leh, can I get a lift back? So we said, sure. So on the way, we were talking to her. And she works, I won't name the company, she works for a very large company in Bangalore. And we asked her, so how long have you been in Ladakh? And she said, I've been here for 6 weeks. So we said, look, 6 weeks, and we got so much vacation. She said, no, I'm working from home. Oh, I said, okay, working from home. I said, 11 o'clock in the morning and you are in the Lamayuru monastery. So what exactly does working from home means? See, that's the way we all work. We log in at 8:30 in the morning, keep the computer on, do sightseeing the whole day and log out at 5:30 in the evening. And she's saying it as a matter of pride, saying, this is my culture. So the concept of morality, ethics, somebody's paying you for working and you're not working, it worries me a little bit. So anyway, I'm not here to lecture anybody. So I think that if you come back to my original point, the one big reason for the big resignation, and this is true in the US also, by the way, is that people have got used to this lifestyle of working from home. In our own group, and Amit works for our skills company, so he will attest to that. In July of last year, we decided that, look, work from home is fine if you have to, but not home from Sangli and Satara and Hubli or wherever else, okay? Work from Pune, boss. So you got a job in Pune, okay? You can't come to office, okay, because there's a COVID scare. So work from wherever you live. And the minute we said that, within 1 month we started getting calls saying, home is like four bachelors staying together, how can 4 people do Zoom together? Can you please let us come back to office? So we said, fine. And we also started going to office. So life is khush. And I talked to one of my former HR people, and I was asking him, okay, they have about 10,000 people. And I was asking him, so what's the deal? I mean, you have this lovely campus in Pune. Why aren't you getting people back? He says, look, out of the 10,000 people, 9,000 people are working from home. And we've discovered only about 500 are working from Pune. They're all over the country. So he said, if I ask people to come back now, at least 3,500 will quit immediately. Okay, I think it's the comfort of a completely different lifestyle, work style, whatever. And of course, as most of you in HR will know, the minute you quit your job and you've accepted the offer from somebody else and you're supposed to join after 6 weeks, then you immediately put up your resume in something called noticeperiod.com, and noticeperiod.com will give you 3 other offers so that the day before you're supposed to join this company, you can call up and say, I'm sorry, I can't join. How many of you are suffering what we call joining attrition? Most of the time. So is this an ethical world? I don't know. How many of you are in HR, by the way? Thank God. If I do this, if I do this in a regular audience, I'll get stones thrown at me. So what's the solution? We're going to discuss solution whole day. That's why I'm kind of teeing it up for you. Anybody has a solution to this problem? For the next 1 year, what do you in HR do to solve the great resignation problem, solve the problem that people are not coming back? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, keep sitting here.
The solution might be to have a common platform where we get
मतलब जासूसी करना है. Hey guys, one at a time. Go ahead. Okay.
and they can create a platform to know how many offers
So suppose you know that he has 5 offers. क्या कर लोगे आप? Okay. So that's one. That's one. Anything else you can do? What can, and this is supposed to be the CEO session. What can a CEO do to ensure that we are still growing the company, worried about environment, worried about governance, if people are quitting all the time? Yeah, please, go ahead.
I think better engagement from the business.
Perfect.
While hiring.
So we all forgot that there is something called culture, people management, etc. सब भूल गए, no? We're all worried about how do we put more money into the resources mouth and make sure they stay here. It's never going to work, guys. Exactly. Go somewhere. I mean, I had this experience myself. We were trying to recruit a consulting head for one of our businesses. So we found a very good guy, worked for a top company for 2 years, and he said he's getting 11 lakhs. So we offered him 13, all said and done, signed, accepted, etc. 2 weeks, he's supposed to join in 4 weeks. 2 weeks later, I get a call from him saying, I have another offer, so can you please make it 15 lakhs? So normally I never say yes to these things, but we were quite desperate because client was howling. So we said, okay, 15 lakhs is fine. Suppose the day of joining, Monday morning, doesn't show up. I get a mail from him, sorry, I accepted another offer of just 22 lakhs. Now, what do you do in such cases? Because nobody warns you, nobody tells you this is going to happen. And this is a very, very big deal thing. Any other solutions you have? Yeah.
He belongs to that organization, just like we feel in our family that we belong to this family, and in good or bad situation we cannot leave it. Just like that, we need to involve the employee in the organization so that he can stay there forever.
So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
Any other ideas you have? One is he said make a list and kill them if they're on that list. The second was he said make them feel belonging in that organization. Yeah, any last ideas? Yeah, please go ahead.
Actually, we are doing one experiment these days. Okay, once we send the offer to the candidate, and the notice period is around 60 days or something like that, we give them sort of assignments. Okay, and we usually talk to them. So our company is into objective and key results management softwares. Okay, so whatever it is required to know the basic things about it, so we usually provide a genes of it. Okay, and we are not
Then you find out the person doesn't know anything, so you withdraw the offer.
no, he gets involved into that, and that has really helped us. Okay, so even
You're saying involve the person before he joins the organization.
exactly, and we also find whether he's actually interested or not. So usually if he not responding to things, he himself or she herself withdraws the offers, and we usually get a good talent out of it.
Okay, got it. Any other? Yeah, please go ahead.
Ganesh, you hired me at a 40% pay cut 3.5 years ago.
Don't make me feel ashamed. Anuja.
So you did 3 things. You showed me what was possible. You showed me what I didn't know about myself, which I mean you were talking about it yesterday. And the third thing was that you basically made the purpose very clear. So I think those 3 were the magic.
Okay, great. Now, thank you, Anuja, because you're just bringing me to what I wanted to talk about for 5-6 minutes. See, people have forgotten, and I'm accusing all of you in this room because we're all friends. HR have forgotten that they are supposed to manage human resources with somebody, showing them the purpose, showing them a mission, showing them an HR, showing them a strategy. And most important, leaders should not forget that I'm talking about every CEO in this country, not just in IT, but in anywhere else. They should not forget that their prime responsibility, like we said earlier, is also people. And you can't just delegate that to HR or delegate that to a business head and say, you take care of attrition, don't manage it, etc. It never works like that. And I'll give you 2 examples from my own life. Okay? When I started off my career in manufacturing, then moved to a company called NIIT, early computer leader in training. And I was running consulting there. And fortunately, the headhunter didn't know I was running consulting in NIIT. Sushma was in NIIT, will remember that. And they thought, oh, if this guy is in NIIT, he must be in computer education. Okay, I never heard the name computer education before. But this competing company that got set up, some of you would have heard of Aptech. Okay, so Aptech reached out, not Aptech, but their headhunter reached out to me saying, would you like to join Aptech as CEO? I was 32 years old at that time. Okay, and somebody saying CEO, I don't even know the spelling. So at that time, I had a boss who, by the way, just finished his career as managing director of NIIT, a guy called Arvind Thakur. And I was having a fight with Arvind. So I gave him Arvind's number and said, why don't you call him? He's a more suitable candidate to be out of NIT and into Aptech. He said, no, we've heard your name and we want you. I said, okay, I'll meet the boss. And then I went and met the boss, etc., etc. And then it happened. So I just moved back from Delhi to Bombay and started my career there. And interestingly, and it is almost like now, see, there was a time when everybody wanted to be a software programmer, Today, nobody cares. I'm sorry to say that, but people are saying, whoever gives me the biggest money, I'll join. Doesn't matter if you're in e-commerce, you're in ed tech, you're in health tech, it doesn't make a damn difference. Those days, computer training was exactly that. I mean, nobody got up in the morning and said, I want to be a computer trainer in NIT or Aptech. It was seen as an infra-dig job. You did it for a couple of years and then maybe you joined a software company and built your business and went to America. So that was the way people saw it. And we had an attrition of, believe it or not, 132%. You know what 132% attrition means? It means at the end of every 11 and a half months, you have a new company. So you feel a CEO that you've joined a new company every 11 and a half months. You don't recognize anybody in the room. That's what 132% means. And I remember we asked ourselves, saying, oh my God, what do we do with this? We are not offering a great job. As I said, it's not a great idea. Nobody aspires to be a computer trainer. So we did it in a completely different way. We did it by just complete engagement. Okay, we had fun every Friday night, and people in Aptech still remember it. We used to have this great party on the terrace, and we had our office with a terrace in Andheri in Bombay. We used to hire the rainmaking equipment from Film City in Goregaon, and the parties were really wild. People had real fun, and we didn't pay for it also. We just ordered some lousy biryani from somewhere. It was, buy your own booze, open bar, etc., etc. And people never quit. Everybody waited. I mean, everybody was working between the Friday to Friday parties. Attrition came down from 132% in 1 year to 11%. Suddenly we got worried, why are so many good dancers staying on and the good computer guys not staying on, okay? But that taught me a culture, which I said, look, which is something that I still remember and I want you guys to think about it. And which is what my company today is called 5F World. And 5F has been my culture for the last 27 years, since my early days in Aptech. 5F is, first is fast. People want, and to take Anuja's point on purpose, people want to work for a company that's growing fast, not is stagnating, growing at 5% per year. So you have to, that is a CEO's job, to make sure that, remember I talked about growth as the first parameter. How do you get better than industry growth? The second F is focus. Does your company know what it's trying to do? What he said about what his company does. I mean, can you articulate in 30 seconds, this is exactly why my company exists. And what is its unique point of view, which is different from competition? Then people love that. Okay, like what Anuja is talking about, where I recruited for, is an entity we run in Pune called Lighthouse Communities Foundation, which works with 540 slums in the city of Pune, and we are transforming each slum youth and getting them jobs. And the 155 people who work for us, just love what they do. So for us, attrition is not an issue at all, because people do it for the joy of transformation. So that's the focus. The third F that people are looking for is flexibility. That is the organization open to changing my role, giving me a chance. I still remember when I was running, I'll come to Zensar next. When I was running Zensar, we just called all the meetings and said, we're opening a new center in Poland, in the city of Gdansk. Who wants to go? And we thought, some of the sales guys will want to go, but the admin guy, a former commander in the Navy, he put up his hand saying, I'd like to go. And I remember me and my HR head were looking at each other and saying, oh my God, can he do this? I said, let's give him a try. And he turned out to be a great guy. So I'm saying HR has to convince leaders also that, look, there is nobody who is incapable of doing something if the aspiration is there and the flexibility of organization and the person is there. So fast, focused, flexible. What do you think are the other two Fs? Anybody? Give me two more Fs that people would love to have in an organization. Yes? Fun. Any other? What's the fifth F? Sorry? Freedom is a little complicated. That's like the girl in Ladakh. Okay, huh? What's the F? Future. I think of a simple word called friendly. How often does your CEO smile at you, for heaven's sake? I remember I had this wonderful HR girl in Aptech called Mercy. And even when I stepped out of my office to go to the loo, she'd say, Ganesh, smile. Why should I smile? I'm going to the bloody loo here. She said, you're the CEO of our company. If you put a frown on your face when you're going to the loo, people will think, kuch gadbad ho raha hai. Profit nahi hona. So I used to put on this plastic smile like my grandson does nowadays and walk up. But it makes a difference. Okay, that friendliness of culture we've lost. Because when we talk to a person, we are worried, oh my God, she's giving me a resignation letter. So it shows in your face rather than her face. So I think that's extremely important. So my culture has always been that. Fast, focused, flexible, friendly, fun. Okay, and if you do that, and I want you as HR to think about it, it will transform. When I moved to Zensar, I mean, the same thing happened. Zensar was a Chotu company in Kharadi, not far from here. 40 crores revenue, hardly making money. We had 600 people, out of which 300 were on the bench. So literally we were utilizing only 50% of our resources. And my first job as CEO was to fire people. Because we could not carry on with 300 people doing nothing. So we did that and they rebuilt that organization. And today there's a wonderful Harvard Business School case study which is taught in HBS called Vision Communities at Zensar. And people like Manjari, for instance, who's sitting here and will speak in the afternoon. Manjari, one of the first people, or Sushma for that matter, even she only recently left Zensar. So if you look at people like this, I mean, they kind of got this whole vision community idea, which is what Harvard wrote about, and they made it the culture of the company. And why I'm saying this is, I remember, because I have a very favorite professor in Harvard Business School, a gentleman whose name was David Garvin. And once David and I were talking, and we had grown the company from 2,500 people to 5,000 people in about 2 years' time. So David asked me, so Ganesh, what's the secret sauce? I mean, how do you guys do this? So I was being kind of flippant, and I said, we do it through love, David. He says, love? Are you serious? I said, yeah, we do it through love. I mean, we love our people, they love us, we love the purpose, the culture, everything else. He said, I don't believe you. No company can run through love, not if you're a public limited, Bombay Stock Exchange listed company. I said, try us. And this was in Boston. He sent a team and he came himself in the Kharadi campus of Zensar. Of course, we were also smart. We put all the real love people in front of him, not the guys who don't smile in the morning. But at the end of it, he wrote such a lovely case study. Okay? In fact, if any of you are interested, just send me a mail. I'll send you the case study. Extremely well written. But he talked about this whole culture of how do you get people to really believe in an organization. And I'm proud to say that in Zensar, our salary was at the 60 percentile. Definitely not 80, 90, nothing. We never attracted people, retained people with money. It was all about, this is the purpose. We are trying to be a big boy because we were a small company. But we grew that company from 20 million to 450 million. Now it's 600 million in 12 years. What Anand Deshpande is doing, and you should ask him that question in the afternoon, same thing. I mean, by getting people to bond, believing in what Anand talked about 30 years ago, and building a $735 million organization. Or what Ashish Gaikwad, who's here in the afternoon, Mahesh is the HR head of Honeywell Automation, Ashish is the MD. What they're trying to do, I mean, a solid global multinational doing great work in India. So there are companies like this who are really making that as a purpose. And that is what so coming to that, what did we do if you look at the case study, you will find behind the love culture, we actually created this model called Attract, Enable, Retain. Which is why when Kshitij and I were talking, we said, look, let's create a one-day workshop called Attract, Enable, and Retain. So when you look at Attract, for instance, and which is the reason why I got Amit to come and speak, because he works for a company called Global Talent Track. And they pioneered this model, which I'm sure he'll talk about, which is going to second-tier colleges and getting people to be good enough to work for the Infosys and the TCSs of the world. It's a higher train deploy model. And they work purely on first assessing demand of large organizations and then finding the right people for that. Not what we used to do in AppTech, training millions of people and hoping they'll get a job. So this is one convoluted method that they found that works extremely well. Or what I'm sure Kshitij will talk about in terms of how they attract amazing people with Salesforce.com skills to join their organization. So for us, Attract was extremely important. The second and the critical one, which all HR will agree, is enable. How do you enable people through culture, through what we in Zensar used to call associate relationships? Because for every 200 people, we had one HR person whose job was not to do HR admin stuff, but actually be their voice, listen to them, be part of the vision of the company, and take responsibility for ensuring that attrition was less than 10%. The third, which I think Manjari will talk about, because she runs an outstanding institution called Maya Care, is how else do you motivate people? You give them leadership smiles, HR takes care of them, give them good work, give them their whatever opportunities they want. But beyond that, we said, let them get engaged in what is now called ESG, let them get engaged in social activity. So even at that time, in the city of Pune and in Hyderabad and in Johannesburg and in US, we ensured that as many people who wanted got time to do volunteering for social service. And I still remember, and this is well known in the Bombay Stock Exchange, in 2005, I made a presentation to the analysts in the Bombay Stock Exchange and saying we are going to focus as a company on the triple bottom line. Anybody heard of triple bottom line before? What are the triple bottom lines? Anybody? See, you nodded your head. You better give me the answer. You heard of it, but you don't know what it is. Okay. It's the 3 P's. The first P is the big one, profit. That's what everybody wants to do. The second P is people. And the third P is planet. So today, it's not fashionable to say triple bottom line. They call it ESG, environment, social and governance. And I got killed by the stock exchange saying, how can you say this? I mean, you're such a small company, hardly making profits, and now you're talking about triple bottom line. I said, I will prove to you in 5 years that any company that focuses on a triple bottom line will get a better first bottom line also. And believe me, you know how it happens. We realized that, Zensar attrition was anyway very low. Unfortunately, I'm not running Zensar at this point of time. But in those days, our attrition was less than 13%. And what we call critical talent, the top 10%, the attrition was as low as 1.8%. Nobody left the company. And we also found that even in the 13%, if you took about 20% of the people who were involved in social activity in Pune and Hyderabad and everywhere else, the attrition levels came down to about 50% of that, which means people who are engaged with community causes within the company were much less likely to leave than people who are just doing their work and going home. So we will talk about this when we talk about it. And it leads to retain, obviously. I remember, and this is the last example I'll give you, just before I left Zensar in 2016. 2015, we got this gentleman from Pune called Arun Vaklu, who runs this wonderful company. And we were just chatting with the management team, and he was there. And we said, look, okay, all these wonderful ideas you guys did when you were 2,000 people. Today, the company is 8,000 people. How do you continue to do that? And we started getting worried. And as HR, I'm sure many of you in large companies are worried. Because maybe the leader or somebody who started the company has a great culture, everybody loves the person, etc., etc. But as you grow, and let's say you have now, and that time we had 400 managers managing 8,000 people, and we found the same culture was difficult to percolate. What do you think, and not in your company, but in your friend's company, goes wrong with managers? What do managers not do that HR would like them to do? Anybody? Give me one thing they don't do, which you really wish they would do better than what they do today. Managers, I'm not talking about your CEO. Don't worry about anybody saying, "Arey baap re, CEO ke bare baat kar rahe." What do managers do wrong? Nazir, I'll come back to you. Anybody? What would you love them to do that they don't do? Give feedback. Fantastic. Anything else? Yes, yes.
Show them the personal care.
Show them you care. Okay. Anything else?
Talking about career prospects with the business.
My God, you got all three right, one after the other. I call it connectedness, development action planning, and feedback. Feedback is just terrible. Okay. I remember in my first job in NIT, I had a boss whose name I will not be, a very nice guy. But I remember I'd worked for 1 year. He never gave me any feedback. Okay. At the end of it, you'll remember this, Sushma. Okay. So then he says, Ganesh, we have to do your appraisal. I said, sure, feel free, do anytime you want. He said, no, we have to do it properly. I said, what does properly mean? He said, no, we'll go out, I'll buy you a couple of drinks and then we'll do your appraisal. Koi culture hoga to who cares? And I was living in Thane. When if you know Bombay, my office was in Nariman Point, living in Thane. You don't want to leave like after 3 drinks and then try and find 3 local trains to go back home. So we went and did all this. So he was making sure that I was fully drunk and willing to receive his feedback. And then he takes out a little black book. He says, in April of this year, you said this which I did not like. Then in June, you said something similar. I said, boss, pehle kyun nahi bola? When I said it, you could have told me, no. But this is the Indian style. Appraisal mein dekh lenge. Okay, and I'm not saying HR does, but please understand your managers are not good at people handling. And which is why people say, okay, he's treating me like a commodity. I'll quit and join somebody else. But if they had a really good relationship with the manager was connected with them, was planning their development, was giving them feedback. So we came up with this great epiphany after this discussion. And believe me, we then said, okay, which training organization can come and deliver connectedness, development action planning and feedback to 400 managers? And the advice we got was, do not appoint a training company, do it yourself. So we got 20 of our top management, including me, to be trained by a company called Manford Consulting on how to do this process, and we went all over the world. I did 14 workshops myself, from Johannesburg to Cape Town to various places. But people said, oh my God, my leaders are really taking the effort to come and teach me how to do this. So these are the kind of tricks that we learned as we go along. And then finally we did an initiative called Jugnu, which is very popular. you all know what a jugnu is, right? It's a firefly. And it lights up. So we said, if every person is a jugnu, there's something that's lighting up your soul. There's something that you feel really passionate about. If that jugnu within you can be aligned to the jugnu of the organization, you will never leave the organization. So we said, let's align your individual purpose to the purpose of the organization, which is what we do in Lighthouse Communities, which is what we do in the Skills Company Global Talent Track. People really believe we are making a difference to the country, to the society, to people, and they'll make it happen. So that's the last thing we will talk about today, called retain. And then we'll kind of take stock, and I'm still here the whole day because I want to see how this experiment works with a bunch of bright HR people. So my only request is, and I'll stop here, please feel free to ask a lot of questions. Because we are trying to organize it like this, and this is the only formidable session of a CEO whose picture is behind you. Okay, I'm sure you all said, oh my God, ye kya bolne wala hai, So, but make sure it's engaging.
Any questions? Yes, ladies and gentlemen.
And if you forget anything, do not forget my 5 Fs. So remember that when you go back, try and create organizations that are fast, focused, flexible, friendly. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Any questions?
One of the things, Dr. Natarajan, I have typically felt while hiring people, the hiring managers typically go out and try to find people with perfect skill sets, which match all the tick boxes. Now, personally, I have believed that what's in it for him, what's in it for her, right? When they come in, if they've already done all the things which we want them to do, what would they learn here? I would like to take your views on that.
I'm glad you brought it up, and I hadn't talked about it, because if you look at learning and development, for instance, we're also finding, which I'm sure many of you in HR will realize, I mean, even today is going to be tough. In the next 6 hours, thank you, most of you did not look at your phone, so I'm very impressed with myself. But normally in a training program, within 30 minutes, including if I never sit on the front row, because then everybody can notice that you're looking at your phone. But you cannot keep away from that damn WhatsApp for more than 20 minutes. So training programs are normally counterproductive, because the guy misses your main point because just replying to some WhatsApp message. So we're now finding, and this is something that we are now investing in, so we have actually a product called Skills Alpha, which we built. And the idea is that let your learning be managed by yourself. I mean, a lot of artificial intelligence is there today. Your learning style may be different from your friends. So how can you manage your own learning? And that's something that I think at NASSCOM, which is our IT industry body, we are doing. Government of India is doing. We actually worked with them to create something called, I think, skills. They have a future skills program that they're doing. So that's important. So I think the point to your question is, you have to ensure people have a learning opportunity all the time. But people are not going to come to an organization and just give based on their skills and not get something in return, which is not just money, but the opportunity to learn new things. So I think that's a very good question. Thanks for asking. Any other points? Yep, go ahead. You're looking for a mic. Don't worry, just use your voice.
Dr. Natarajan, you have just mentioned one thing about goal summit, where you have mentioned that purpose, what individual is looking for, and the purpose what organization is having should meet each other. But another point which is most important, which probably the person who is taking interview need to take care, is need to know the offering and need to convince person in terms of what all things you would be having when you will be in. For example, when I'm taking campus interviews, initial 10 minutes, I'm only telling what things I have, something which my competitors does not have. For example, person when I'm talking to, I know that person is having Infosys, TCS, Wipro, all 3 of us, and I'm the 4th person who is talking to that person to convince you need to join me. And I'm not that great comparing to those 4 organizations.
You're absolutely right, which is why I said earlier, you must be able to understand what is your organization's secret sauce. What is your unique point of view? Because if you don't have a point of view which is different from somebody else, then the person is just evaluating on iska offer better hai ki uska offer better. Okay, this is like going to any campus. I used to recruit heavily in the IIMs. At the end of the day, the only tension is, have I got the highest offer for the day? Okay, it may be a lousy company. Like I was talking to a guy who was really brilliant. I was mentoring him last year. IIT Madras, gold medalist. Then he worked for a year in a startup. Got an offer to join IIM Ahmedabad. Didn't join. Now he's gone and joined, I shouldn't take the name of the company, but a very wealthy fund. So I was talking to him just 2 days ago. I said, look, why did you join a fund? I mean, you're an electronics engineer, gold medalist from IIT Madras. He said, no, they paid me so much money I couldn't refuse. Now, after 3 years, this boy is going to be miserable. He turned down the IIM Ahmedabad offer. He's a great engineer. So a lot of people get diverted into pure money chase. And that's because the person who should have recruited him didn't sell him the right dream. Okay. And this is something that we all should think about. Because we hire engineers by the kilo, okay, and we don't understand which engineer wants what. But I think as HR, let's try and be more, as you rightly said, more detail-oriented in terms of who we are recruiting, how does that person fit, how is our company good for that person. We always ask whether the person is good for the company. But I think these are important things that we need to see. Okay, one last question.
So one more point is about
I don't know whether you are allowed to ask 2 questions, but anyway, ask it.
Sorry, just to add in that is upskilling, reskilling. That is also most important when we are offering something to them. Thank you.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
Through development is able, at an individual level, if the employee is able to experience a success and growth, that would be highly engaging, because everybody wants to feel successful. It's not just the top
absolutely.
leaders.
Yeah, I mean,
so
we
if
all
they
say you're working for a cause, you're
yeah,
doing this,
but
the cause is important,
right.
but my personal cause is equally important.
No, and she must feel, yes, I've delivered in the role, and they're enablers to do that. So
Exactly.
that,
And I think that delivered in the role and succeeded must be apparent in terms of your salary. It must be apparent in terms of your recognition by the. I remember when I joined my first company, a company called Crompton Greaves, traditional manufacturing company in Bombay and then Nasik. I mean, what impressed me most was the managing director's ability to remember names, and I was one of 8,000 people in that company. But after 2 meetings, Mr. K.K. Noria could call me out by name. If I asked a question, he'd reply saying, okay, Ganesh, this is what it is. Now that really hits you. Okay, so I think that's what leaders should do. That's why I said earlier, leaders cannot deal with people as a grade and a salary. We should deal with people as individuals who have an aspiration, as you're saying, Sushma. Absolutely. No doubt.
Good afternoon, sir. Actually, we are working with...
You tell me when to stop. Huh? Don't look worried. Yeah.
So actually, we are working with unorganized sector. Working with organized sector, all whatever mentioned over there will be applicable. But if we are working with unorganized sector, they are not having that much skills or that much type of expertise or knowledge or whatever. They will not follow our process. In that case, what we are doing, we are thinking to issue the ESOP. Whatever employee join with us, we will issue the ESOP, and while going for a limited, they will be a great opportunity to earn a high profit or high earning. Whenever the company will grow, they will also grow.
No,
Is it possible?
I'm trying to connect your 2 points. When you say, for instance, okay, I'm on the board of State Bank of India, of Honeywell, of Hinduja Group, and 3 NGOs. Sometimes I find the processes followed by the NGO are superior to the process followed by some of these large. Sorry, Mahesh, I'm not talking about Honeywell. But so it's actually quite surprising. So you cannot say you're working for a non-formal organization, so we should not have process. I'm saying a process should be there everywhere. See, people believe in a process. Now you can say, ye ho jayega, this will happen, 2 years later you'll get. I still remember in one of my early jobs, okay, the founder was going away and I was taking over. And they used to have this joke, because like every other, we had to have this grade structure. So we had E, executive grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you became a manager, and you became M, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then hopefully you quit. Okay, so, but that was 10 grades through which you got promoted. So there was a folklore in that organization. That one day, the founder came and met all of us. And he liked somebody so much that he said, uska number nahi, alphabet badal do. So suddenly the guy moved from E3 to M3. Can you believe it? How many promotions is that? Hats. So, okay, 5. I'll believe you. So instead of going from E3 to E4, he just changed his grade. And people used to talk about it saying, what a great thing happened. I said, oh my God, this is the worst thing you can do. So process, don't compromise. It doesn't, don't tell me formal, non-formal. And the ESOP point you raised is fine. So again, a small bit of advice I have for all of you looking at employee stock options is, see, if you decide, look, I have 2,000 people, and we will give everybody half a share in the company. Nobody is impressed. Because that is not enough value. Even in Zensar we discovered that. So when you give less number of people ESOPs, which has real value. Okay, like my ESOPs, okay, in Zensar were worth 20 times my salary. Then you take it as a real value, let's build the value of the company, etc. But if your ESOPs are less than 5% of your salary, why would you even bother? So even ESOP is not a great tool unless you see real value. Okay, so going back to my point, start with love, see how you can scale love, okay, and you're all smiling and you don't believe me. And I'll tell you my last story. I remember, so David Garvin, after he wrote the case, he said, Ganesh, why don't you come to Harvard Business School and teach the case along with me? I said, sure. Who will not do an opportunity to teach in Harvard Business School? So I go to the class, and there's 90 people, 90 students in the class. And David said, if you don't mind, Ganesh, just sit at the back of the class. I'll introduce you after 20 minutes. And David is the best professor in the world as far as I'm concerned. So he starts with this class, second year MBA class, cynical MBA students of Harvard Business School. And he says, guys, how many ways there are to build successful organizations? You got all the usual market share, ye, wo, falana, etc., etc. Then he asks this question, how about love? So one girl actually stood up and said, Professor, have you been smoking something last night? He says, no, I met a person when I was in India, and he said he's built a fairly large public listed corporation by using love. So then another hand shot up, Indian girl. She says, I'm Kritika from somewhere. Saying, Professor, don't believe Indian CEOs. They all talk crap. Yeah, tum Indian ho and everybody. And then David says, oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you that CEO is here in this room. So Ganesh, when you come down? And I'm like going for lamb to the slaughter. But believe me, in 50 minutes in that class, David would change the thinking of the people, saying there is a value in love. So he'd start with, if any of you have heard of Machiavelli, the person who used hate as an emotion, and go right from hate to divisive to the typical command and control structure to how love works for organizations. So, I mean, he was amazing at doing that. But we don't think about it. Yesterday we were having a discussion in our management committee where Anuja was part of. And we were discussing about, so fine, I mean, like we want to move from 80,000 slum youth impacted to 1 million in the next 10 years. And we said, what's going to come in the way? And we said, we have to figure out how to scale love. No, because when you show love to 155 employees and suddenly it becomes 1500, the same problem I had in Zensar, scaling the love quotient is not going to be easy. But if you believe in that, then you will focus on that as HR. And then leave it to your CEO to make sure profits grow and all the other 5Fs are taken care of. So let's keep talking about it during the day. Okay, I'll give you the last question. Go ahead. Let's speak louder because your voice cannot carry it.
Sorry.
Hey, somebody run with the mic.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go a little louder. That's it. Three months.
The offer shopping, offer jumping is happening. And some companies, say for example IT companies only, they want candidate to join like 15 days, 1 month, but your own company wants the employee to serve 30 days notice period. How this situation is managed and why such a torture situation arises?
First of all, I think this 90-day notice period is complete bullshit.
Exactly, because if the employee has already decided that he wants or she wants to leave the organization, the HR has done his or her bit to retain.
Then she will do nothing for 89 days out of the
Yeah.
But we believe as leaders and HR heads that will hold them on to the organization. Do you know? Yeah, you have to get the billing also. Because anyway, she was not doing anything, but you were getting billing, right? So, do you know how much is the notice period in America?
Yeah.
Do you know how much is the notice period in Europe? Exactly, 1 week, 15 days. It's sensible, guys. I mean, I still remember the first time when we opened an Aptech Center in Princeton in US, and the center head was not performing. So, and I was not used to dealing with American employees. And I'm talking about 30 years ago. So I remember sitting across, I still remember his name, Joe. And I give him all the bullshit that we give in India. Your performance is actually very good, but there is a problem. So he kind of, after some time, he said, Ganesh, are you firing me? So I said, no, I wouldn't quite put it that way. I said, hey, you be clear. Huh? He said, you seem to be implying that I should resign or something like that. He said, please fire me. I said, but why are you saying? He said, if you fire me, I get unemployment benefits. If I resign, I don't get unemployment benefits. You have to understand the culture of the land. Okay? And then I said, okay, how much notice period do you want? So he put his hand on his head. Ganesh, I'm a sales guy. And in America, when you fire a sales guy, you call him at 3 o'clock and then you tell him, 2 security guards will take you to your desk. Please clear out your desk in 45 minutes and never come back. He said, that is a policy in America. You don't have to feel ashamed of doing this. I'm not going to come here in 15 days and gossip and waste other people's time. And here we do it for 90 days. God help us. Seriously. So somebody has to think about it. But over my part. Okay, thank you very much, guys, and I'll give it back.
Thank you, Ganesh, sir. See, I asked Mr. Ganesh to speak for 1 full hour, but he insisted 30 minutes बहुत ज़्यादा हो जाएंगे. But I'm sure, so, when we did a survey, why you want to attend the session, and 30% of your people actually put to meet Mr. Ganesh, to listen him. So I knew the session is going to be like, like people want him to speak over and over again. And the good thing is here till 7. So you guys, 6:30. Okay, 6:30, right? So you guys can, please, he's very open, so you can meet him, you can ask him any questions, you'll be there around lunch as well. So thank you so much, sir, for presenting this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Dr. Natarajan, for an enlightening and very, very entertaining presentation. We appreciate having this mysterious area very much clarified, very, very subjective and very informative. Though I'm a doctor, I completely understood everything. Well, I thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking out time from your busy schedule to be a speaker. We're highly thankful and we are really, really blessed and honored to have you here, sir.